Okay, calm down.
So this is actually from journalist Sam Husseini, who spoke at a press conference the other day, asked an interesting question that I think you're well positioned to respond to.
Thank you. President Lula of Brazil recently joined a growing list of world leaders condemning Israel, not just simply for war crimes, not just simply for crimes against humanity, but for genocide. The late president of the Center for Constitutional Rights, Michael Ratner, during Israel's 2014 assault on Gaza, which killed 2,000 Palestinians, advocated that the Genocide Convention be invoked in that case against Israel, saying that legally, for genocide, quote, you don't need to kill all of them. You just need to have the mental intent to kill part of them. Craig Mokhiber, who just resigned as director of the New York office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, noted that intent, usually the hardest part of genocide to prove, isn't in this case. He wrote in his resignation letter, quote, explicit statements of intent by leaders in the Israeli government and military leave no room for doubt or debate. Finally, Francis Boyle, who successfully represented Bosnia and Herzegovina in their genocide case against Yugoslavia before the International Court of Justice, has similarly argued that the Palestinians or any other signer to the Genocide Convention should immediately initiate a emergency legal process invoking the convention at the International Court of Justice. Yet no government has done so. My question to you is, has the U.S. government pressured or bribed or threatened in any way, shape, or form Abbas, the people around him, institutions around him, from invoking this or any other legal mechanisms against Israel to stop its attack?
I don't even know where to start there, Sam. No, the U.S. has not been involved in pressuring or anything like that to any officials within the Palestinian Authority. What I will just say again, in the context of this conflict, we have been incredibly clear that as Israel defends itself and defends its security, that it is imperative that it continues to make a distinction between Hamas terrorists and Palestinian civilians, and that's something we'll continue to raise directly with Israeli counterparts. I will also note that we, within the U.S. government, have a rigorous process for evaluating whether something constitutes genocide, and we have not made that assessment in this case. And it's really important to remember that Hamas bears responsibility for sparking this war, and they brought this tragic war to Gaza. They have compounded and perpetuated the suffering of the Palestinian people at every step of this crisis. And as I said, we continue to support Israel's right to defend itself against these terrorist attacks by Hamas.
You claim that you want Israel to make the distinction, but you don't seem to be making the distinction. If I might, I didn't interrupt you. The Center for Constitutional Rights just put out a statement. Legal organizations put members of Congress on notice for complicity on genocide. Quote, please take note, this is a letter that they sent to members of Congress, Center for Constitutional Rights. Please take notice that should you vote in favor of that package, the Biden package for Israel, you risk facing criminal and civil liabilities for aiding and abetting genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity under international law, and may face investigation and prosecution. Do members of the State Department face similar possibility?
Again, Sam, as I said, we have the U.S. government has a rigorous process in place for evaluating whether something constitutes genocide, and we have not made that assessment in this case.
But you continue to pretend that the bombing of hospital after hospital, bakery after bakery, university after university, and somehow you keep pretending that, they're just after military people.
I appreciate your question, Sam. I've taken two of them. Now I'm going to work the room a little bit. Go ahead.
Can't believe they call on him at all, but
I mean, so great to see somebody practicing journalism in one of those press rooms instead of the usual stenographers who just parrot the propaganda that comes out of, the official positions. And but that's a stunning exchange. I mean, good on Mr. Husseini for that exchange. The spokesperson was completely out of his league. It's right. Clear there. I mean, you see, this is kind of an arrogant thing. We have not, the U.S. government has not determined that it is genocide. So all of a sudden, the U.S. government is whatever the ICC or
Right.
the World Court. Of course, you haven't determined because your determination is political. You would never determine such a thing. Remember, it was the U.S. government, and again, thanks to the leaked memos that we learned after the genocide in Rwanda, we had the State Department instructing all their diplomatic missions, do not use the word genocide, because in Rwanda, as the genocide was unfolding, because if you use the word genocide, we are legally compelled to do something about it. So we don't say genocide, So the fact that the U.S. government has not made a determination is not surprising, and it's not the end of the story. You could say, however, that it shows that they are not taking their international legal obligations seriously. The Convention on Genocide is not, I don't know if I said this already, it's not just to punish genocide, but it's also to prevent genocide. So you can't wait until after the dust is settled and say, now we'll determine whether that was genocide or not. The obligations go much further than that. And thank goodness that these are war crimes, crimes against humanity, ethnic cleansing, genocide. These things are all subject to universal jurisdiction. So they can be prosecuted in any court anywhere in the world by somebody who wants to bring a claim. That's why there are a lot of senior officials who have to check before they go to a country whether there's a pending indictment or whether there's a risk of arrest. And I think there are going to be a lot of names on that list in the coming months as well, because under universal jurisdiction, all of these crimes can be prosecuted effectively in any court. The U.S. will continue to block the ICC. The ICC will continue to drag its feet because it does give in to political pressure from the West when it comes to Israel and violations of international crimes by Israel. But that's kind of a typical shame. I've seen some worse exchanges by spokespersons in the official institutions of Washington, but that's certainly a ridiculous one, I have to say.
So any country could use that, could invoke it, but it would be blocked, you're saying?
Because the Genocide Convention itself has a special role for the International Court of Justice, the World Court, which is a UN entity, and so that it would have to be a country that invokes that. But genocide, and the convention makes clear, you can be a perpetrator whether you're the head of a country, whether you're an official within a country, or whether you're a private actor. Nobody is immune if they are participating. It outlaws not just genocide itself, it outlaws attempted genocide, incitement to genocide, conspiracy to commit genocide, and here's what's really important: complicity in genocide. And I have argued that many of the crimes that are being perpetrated now in Gaza by the Israelis, the U.S. is very complicit through the financing, arming, diplomatic cover, intelligence support, even the mobilization of some troops, I understand as well. So it's not a hard case to make that there is direct complicity.
So what could the World Court do if it were brought to the International Court of Justice, which is also known as the World Court, correct?
Yeah, that's different from the International Criminal Court, where you can have individual criminal accountability. In the World Court, it's state to state. So there would be a kind of accountability that would help to support charges against individuals. But there should be a claim in the World Court. Any state can bring it if they're a party to the convention. I think there needs to be pressure to counterbalance the pressure that has caused the International Criminal Court not to take action all these years when it comes to Israel. There needs to be pressure, and they are feeling, I think, a little bit of pressure now as more and more voices are speaking up and saying this really does look like genocide, for some action there. But also individuals could be tried through universal jurisdiction in third-party courts. I fully expect there will be an independent commission of inquiry mandated by the UN at some point to investigate and put it on the record. It may include what we call the brown envelope, which is an annex that is not published that includes a list of names of perpetrators that can be handed over to prosecutors when prosecution is pursued. All of those things can and should happen because part of the problem is the impunity of perpetrators who are never held to account. But if some of them are held to account, we may see a change in conduct eventually. All of this feels so theoretical because as we're talking, there are literally people dying excruciating deaths under the rubble with very little oxygen, their bones broken, their skin burned in terror, some of them babies, some of them old persons, some of them disabled persons, women, men, children. The numbers are going to go up. They're dying horrible deaths because they have been rendered as non-human entities by Western politicians and Western media. And our tax dollars are going toward this absolutely horrendous moment in history and this genocidal assault on a civilian population.
Yeah. I think partly the availability of social media makes me, not that this is about me, but I feel so much more powerless than I have in the past. Like with the war in Iraq, it wasn't quite as immediate. You couldn't see what our tax dollars were doing right away. There's something that's just so paralyzing.
I know. Yeah, I feel it. You look in the face of those. I mean, we're able to look in real time into the eyes of those children,
right,
and their terror, and to see their wounds, and to see them shaking and terrified. And even, I mean, I've seen this forever. I mean, because these attacks are periodic, and even when attacks aren't happening, the Israelis do these things just to terrorize the population. They'll fly jets at high speed low across the Gaza Strip to shake the place, and sonic booms, and the children. It takes like the rest of the night to calm them, and they're shaking and they're terrified and so on. And it's all just done as a kind of systematic persecution against them. And, you know, it tells you how completely Palestinians have been dehumanized in the consciousness of the West, and especially in the United States. And that's what we have to undo. And I do feel something is happening here. It's too little, too late. It's too slow. But we all have to do our very best to get the messages out there and to get the humanity of the Palestinian people out there. And solidarity is our best friend in this, you know. Right. And that's why I was so thrilled to see those actions by JVP and If Not Now, and so many other brave folks who are doing what needs to be done.